Hey everyone, it's a DevOps kind of Monday today here. We've got a lot of DevOps news to go over to you and to go over with you. And then Mitchell and I are going to tell you about what we did on our field trip. All that and more on Techstrong Gang. Hi, everyone. As I said, it's a DevOps kind of Monday here on Techstrong Gang. And when we're talking DevOps, we've got some great DevOps people to talk to you about it. Let me introduce you to who we have on the gang today. Back from our field trip out to Silicon Valley, Mitchell Ashley's joining us from home high atop the Rocky Mountains in Denver. Mitchell, good to have you back.
Good to be here. Good to be back in Colorado.
Absolutely. And then from Colorado, hopping nearby over to New Mexico, though it looks like a little different. Are you home in New Mexico or not? I'm not sure. Tracy.
I am home.
It's Tracy.
I am home in New Mexico today.
Good for you.
Just moving around the rooms.
Looks like, yeah, or it's a, who knows, in today's world of virtual
I don't
backgrounds,
have my Silicon Valley background on.
I
have my Santa Fe look on today.
Okay, well, go Santa Fe. Go Santa Fe. Tracy, thanks for joining with us. I feel like I haven't seen you on here in a while. We were missing
I know.
you.
I was missing you guys too. I was glad to see the invite come through. I'm so happy to be here. It's always fun.
Always good stuff. And then joining Mitchell and Tracy and I, he's been holding the fort down here all week, I guess, in our Boca headquarters. It's our Chief Content Officer and Yankee Stadium Bronx native, Mike Vizard. Hey, Mike.
Hello. Good
the
to see you.
Yankees are on a hell of a tear.
They are. Welcome back. But the Rangers are a cause for concern.
Well, it's 3-2.
Yeah, let's not get into hockey right now. That'll take me on a tangent that will go a long way. I'm still upset about the Rangers right now.
Yeah, it's been, look, the Rangers are the Rangers.
I don't know. I think Tracy can write the DevOps hockey manifesto. Is that where you're going?
I probably could. I watch a lot of hockey. I'm going for Edmonton this year, though. I want to see a Canadian team go to the Stanley Cup. Yeah, I think it would be awesome.
Interesting. Edmonton hasn't been relevant since Mark Messier and Wayne Gretzky
It
were on.
Would be amazing to see them back in the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. But let's talk, Mike. We've got some DevOps news to go over today.
So there was at least I found it a bit surprising move, but maybe it's the natural order of things. But JFrog aligned with GitHub on this broad alliance and covers everything from how you're going to connect and provide linkage across your DevOps workflows from the source code sitting over in GitHub all the way over to the JFrog platform where we deal with the binaries. And on that level, it makes a lot of sense. And also, they're going to share some of their AI technologies, and folks will wind up using the GitHub copilots in the JFrog environments and kind of use that to help manage back and forth. I'm sure JFrog will have its own agents as well, and there'll be handoffs between these things. But what's your take on this? You've been looking at these companies for a long time.
You want to know my real take on it? Nothing would, and JFrog's a public company and doing fairly well in the markets. They've made their numbers. Shlomi and the team there run a profitable business that's doing well. Would they like to be part of Microsoft, GitHub, or Azure? You betcha. And I don't have any inside knowledge of this or anything, but to me, this clearly aligns. I think we're seeing battle lines being drawn up, right? Where you have ecosystems and AI is yet one other place where they will come together. But, they all want to play nice. I mean, JFrog still has to play nice with AWS and GCP and all of that. But clearly, it's appealing to deal with GitHub, who has a rich uncle. And, and everybody wants the rich uncle. Now, on the other hand, GitHub, has been on a mission for years and years now to be much more than a repo. They want to be, GitHub pipelines. They want to be a CI/CD player, and they're GitHub. And their CI/CD offering is probably not as good as, let's say, a GitLab. And so they could use and benefit from some of the JFrog maturity, especially around security, right? JFrog's made a big bet in security. So I see, both of these folks have a scratch to itch. Or an itch to scratch, excuse me, and they mutually scratch each other.
Tracy, do you see the same thing? Is this the beginning of some sort of elaborate courtship?
I would suspect so. We're in a kind of one of those flexes Alan is talking about, and we see a lot of disruption in the market right now, a lot of changes. DevOps in particular, as I keep saying, has lost its shiny edge. I'm hoping that we can bring it back because there's so much more to do in the space. But on this particular offering, there is something that I found interesting, which is the ability to connect, and you would think that this already exists, but it doesn't. The ability to connect a repo to an artifact. So if you have an artifact in JFrog, you don't know what repo it came from. Now, my preference would be that the Linux Foundation and SPDX would start capturing the GitHub repo and put it in the SBOM. That would be really, really awesome. But from a technical point of view, if there could be a connection between the repo and the JFrog, between the source code repo and the artifact repo, that would be super helpful. At least it would be to deploy Hub. We've been looking for something like this for some time. So just from that perspective, they are solving an interesting problem in the market. However, I do think that, as Alan put it, it's nice to have a rich uncle, and there's a lot more to be done in this space. GitHub could go a lot farther than they've currently gone in the DevOps space, just in actions. So I think it'll be interesting, and it's something to watch, and I wouldn't be surprised if GitHub purchased JFrog down the road. Wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Mitchell, for sake of argument, I will say that this is really an alliance between two companies that have incomplete offerings, and just kind of highlights what the other guys are doing better, right? So GitLab, to your point, and even the folks over at CloudBees with their new platform, they have a more complete solution. So is this just kind of, two companies coming together in an alliance that is maybe signals some weaknesses? What are your thoughts?
You said the magic word, platform, right? This is part of that march that moved to platforms and expanding out on interconnection. And Tracy hit it right on the head with what's unique about these two companies. Yes, it's Microsoft with GitHub, but it's not Microsoft directly. It's GitHub, the subsidiary or whatever. But with code repository and Artifactory, right? That isn't something you have in many other organizations that are going to partner together. So that interconnection makes a lot of sense. I think it makes a lot of sense for JFrog because they get advantage of, they can tie into the pipelines and the GitHub actions that are being developed there and help round out what's happening there. So is it incomplete? I think it's more kind of how do they fit together? And there's a nice linkage between the two, a natural fit. They don't overlap and compete much in that way. So it makes a lot, and it also, they aren't partnering, JFrog isn't partnering with Azure, they're partnering with GitHub. So it keeps at least one level of distance between themselves and competing with, other cloud environments with AWS and GCP.
I've always thought that GitHub needed a binary repository. I didn't understand why, we can certainly use Git in any way you want, but there is additional features around binary repositories that Git never offered. So I think that this is the time for them to do it because things are shifting so much. But I do have to say that it would be nice to see new innovation, not just integrations. There are many problems to be solved right now in DevOps and security and connecting these dots and connecting a vulnerability all the way out to your production environments. And I feel like we should be innovating more. And I'm hoping that JFrog and GitHub, if they do come together as a complete solution, will innovate around the space and not just integrate. So that's my wish.
So I don't think you underestimate JFrog's a DevSecOps provider, a security play. They have been. Have you know, other than this news, look at their news over the last year, 2 years. 80% of it is security related. I think that is a huge thing that GitHub wants in on is that, you know, security within your CI/CD pipeline. Look, I you know, just because they're hanging out together doesn't mean they're getting married necessarily right now. I think the other thing to look at is, okay, now with these two sort of, you know, working together, what does that mean for CloudBees, GitLab, Harness, some of the other big CI/CD platforms, right? I was citing that kind of segues into our second story where we're going to talk about Harness recently made an acquisition. What does it mean for Google Cloud, GCP?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think as we move into this AI era that we are going to see all these different companies and mergers and acquisitions in a wave driven by, to Mitch's point, the desire to create a platform that is AI infused, and, you know, all bets are off because we're going to reinvent the platform as we know it?
I think there is part of that. I think another part of it is with AI is going to render a lot of companies in the ecosystem. It's going to take away the entry to barriers to entry for a lot of these companies, and not just in CI/CD, but in observability. You know, a lot of the different areas that we play in here. It's going to be a lot easier, let's say for a Google, you know, using some AI technology to quickly beef up their platform around these things. They may not need to do a partnership or a huge acquisition of a public company like this. You know, a lesson I learned, Brad Feld always said, is you want to be in the top 3. If you're not in the top 3, get out. And when markets consolidate like this, it's the top 3 people who make out, right? They get great multiples. They have great financial outcomes for their shareholders. If you're not in those top 3, you don't get as great a return. And what we could be seeing here is the beginning of you know, as Humphrey Bogart would say, a beautiful friendship, Louis.
Yeah. Tracy, to Alan's point, does AI help the startup more, or does it help the incumbent more?
Well, if you're a startup and you're not talking AI, you're probably not going to be a startup for long. Let's just put it that way. But I don't, you know, first of all, as a small company, it is hard right now to recruit and find people who are really solid in really understanding large language models and being able to put the stuff to work. So there's going to be yet some time before startups that are not heavily funded that can bring on somebody at, you know, $250,000 for a developer that's in this space before they can really start leveraging the technology. And as I always say in our space, in the DevOps space, we don't have a good large language model to pull from. You know, Copilot has data, but not about a lot of data about source code, but very little data about what's coming through the supply chain. You know, how production environments are being impacted. So, from my perspective, when I'm looking at AI in the DevOps space, I think we have a long way to go. Now, in other industries, I think that AI will push startups because it's created a brand new economy, right? We have a whole AI economy. But eventually, I think we had this discussion once before. It's not going to be a product. It's going to become a feature. So I think we're going to get to that pretty quick.
I think I was going to say, if we get to the point with AI generated code where we can really give it some hefty challenges, problems, it can eliminate barriers to entry into market, right? If let's say I want to go after the same market that this company that just came out with a product. Maybe it's a startup, so it's an early addition to that. How quickly can I develop my own capability, either into my existing code or creating a new product? If I can create code really fast, and I can close the gap in a much shorter period of time, I think that's what we're all wondering about. when is AI going to be able to help us do that, and what's the impact when it does?
We're close. We're close now. There's a lot you can do right now with what you have. We code a lot faster now than we used to. But that doesn't mean you still have to have somebody who understands the space and understands the problem set and can use the tools. It just helps you generate them.
I think the key thing that a lot of people are overlooking with AI is not so much whether I'm going to write code faster, but I can reduce the time it takes to switch from one platform to the other. So the cost of switching is going to drop considerably as I re-engineer a language that's some proprietary thing into something more common or whatever it is. But Mitch, last question on this. When I put your CTO hat on for a minute, are you waking up in the morning with a sense of agita because you're kind of worried that the people and the companies you bet on to provide the platforms that you based all your decisions on might suddenly, be part of something else the next morning, and you don't know exactly where you feel or if there's any stability in the market right now?
Welcome to my world for the past 30 years. Yes, that's just a fact of life. And especially when you find something really interesting, when I discovered Slack, like, oh, this is a great thing. Did I know it's going to get bought by Salesforce? And would I have been happy about that? Would I have selected it? I don't know, but it's just part of it. You could pick any number of tools that we use today, and they're going to be swooped up or replaced by something else down the road. And you may be, kind of strange bedfellows with a vendor you didn't really plan to be working with, and now you are. It's just a fact of life we deal with.
Absolutely. Hey, we got to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about more deals going on. I kind of let the cat out of the bag. Harness made an acquisition. We're going to talk about that. But first, we're going to pay some bills here and do a quick break here on Techstrong Gang. We'll be back with Mitchell, Tracy, and Mike in just a minute.
Cloud Native Now is the web's leading resource for the growing cloud native ecosystem. CloudNativeNow.com is your destination for news, thought leadership, features, and webinars on cloud native architecture, Kubernetes, serverless, cloud native application development, microservices, service mesh, cloud native security, and more. Stay on the cutting edge of modern application development at Cloud Native Now.
Hello and welcome back. And as previously indicated, we are talking about an acquisition Harness made of a company called Split Software. They provide feature management tools is one way of thinking about it. Of course, the idea of features has been around forever. We've been using it for A/B testing and those kinds of things within DevOps, but now people are using this stuff in production environments to provide different classes of user experiences, because now I can direct different capabilities to different users and charge them different price points. Seems like this whole space got a jump with the rise of digital transformation, but let's start with Tracy. What's your sense of this deal in particular, and where are we with the maturity of feature management?
Well, first of all, I think that Harness, we used the term platform in our previous session, and I think that Harness is building a platform. Feature management was a hole in their offering, and they needed to fill it. And I'm super happy for the company, for Split Software, for getting acquired by them. It's a really great fit. I have not, to be honest, I have not played a lot with feature management. Some companies really embrace it, but I don't believe it's really gotten as much attention as it's worth, particularly in a SaaS environment. In the SaaS environment, there's a struggle with monetizing features, and feature management tools in a SaaS environment could be super, super useful. I don't necessarily know if in a traditional, where you're downloading software, how useful feature management is, but it does have an important place. I find it interesting that it's in the DevOps space as opposed to being in the kind of the ops and management of feature space where you're charging and you're tracking who's using what. And I think that's really where it's most useful. I know we've looked at it for Deploy Hub to say, we can turn features on and off depending on who's logged in, which would be super useful. It's kind of SaaSifying as an option for using features. It was started just for testing, right? We were using it to test features in production, but I think that it has a bigger story to it. And I think Harness made a good decision in I guess, increasing its features around its platform.
It seems to me there's a lot of companies providing this kind of capability, but for lack of a better term, I mean, is features management a feature of a platform, or is it a standalone kind of company?
Look, everything eventually becomes a feature, right? No pun intended here with feature management. That's just the way of the world that I've lived in for the 25, 30 years. I think, excuse me, you looked at this move by Harness. Remember, Harness is a Jody Bonsai company, right? Jody's the founder of App Dynamics, sold it to Cisco. Founded Harness, he's founded Traceable AI. He knows what he's doing. And what you got here is, I think, as Tracy mentioned, Harness is building a next-gen platform for CI/CD and software pipelines. They saw features management as a feature of that platform, and they made a build versus buy decision. And in today's market where, valuations are a little bit more reasonable, and remember, Harness isn't public, but they just raised some money, and they have their Jody has all this equity there based upon their last raise, but it's not a real market. It's not like a public company where I could say their stock's worth $40 a share. They could say their stock's worth whatever they want to say it's worth. The question is whether you believe them or not.
$1 billion.
I think they're probably raised at a couple billion. But then he could use that stock as currency. And I wouldn't be surprised if this was a deal that used a lot of stock as currency, and it was a build versus buy. They made a buy. They had equity to burn. And good for them. This is what smart CEOs and entrepreneurs do.
Tracy, to our last conversation, we didn't really talk about the role venture capitalists play in this dynamic, but it seems like a lot of the times the currency that Alan's talking about is, quote unquote, funny money between the VCs being exchanged for shares and stocks. And how much does that impact these mergers and acquisitions?
I don't really understand the venture capital space as well as I should, and it has changed. VCs have changed so much over the last 4 or 5 years. It's not the same VCs that we knew, before COVID, let's just say. But in the case of what Al was pointing out, if I was split software, if Deploy Hub, if Harness came to Deploy Hub right now and said, we want to invest in you. We're going to do a pure stock exchange. We'll trade stocks. We're going to take over yours. We're going to give you a bunch. I would think it would be an amazing deal because I believe in Harness, right? As Alan said, Jody really does know what he's doing. This was a smart buy for him. But in the VC world right now, I haven't seen anybody really interested in the DevOps space because everybody's talking about AI, and stocks have nothing to do with it. It is pure who's going to win in these particular spaces, and everybody's running kind of crazy trying to come up with the next AI tool. And there's a ton of the startups out there. You look at what they're doing, and sometimes I have no clue what they're up to. So I can't really answer that question, but I can tell you that talking to some VCs as of late, it's like if you don't have AI on your slide deck, they don't want to talk to you because that's all they're interested in. And some of the investments I've seen are a little odd. It's definitely not the same market as it was in, let's say, 2017, 2018. It's changed a lot.
All right. In Harness dollars we trust.
Yes,
hey,
I would think
Mitch,
so. From our perspective, that would be a good deal to become part of the Harness family and own some of their stocks.
Features management, Mitch, has been around since, I think, the 70s. I think you've had some experience with it, or at least, been able to play with it from here to there. What is the current state of this stuff? Because I kind of do scratch my head. I go, wow, this is pretty cool. But then to Tracy's point, it's undervalued and people don't seem to know what to do with it. Is it hard? I mean, why isn't this more pervasive?
Well, if you've done feature management to an extent, you find out very quickly. You get past about the third or fourth or fifth feature you're flagging and turning on off and on. You get into 20, 30, 50 features. It gets very complex very fast. of what each one of those does, what code it affects, what functionality it delivers. So having a management capability, I think, is a valuable thing to have if you're really bought into feature management. I think feature is a misnomer. It was feature. We used it back in still secure days to enable features, functionality. But I think it's really functions in some way, because you can deliver software very quickly, you may deliver code into production you're not really using, and so you turn it off. And you can do that with feature management kind of platform. I'm gonna take a flyer here. I'm guessing, I don't have any inside information. If I'm building a platform, what are the features or capabilities I think I want for my own platform? Feature management. I think they bought them for as much as use in their own product, as well as to fill in a capability of what they offer their customers. So I think if that's the case, they got double their money worth of what they paid for it.
It's a smart deal then. You're right.
Last question. Do you think that AI is the missing component in features management? Because to Mitch's point, it's complex to manage all these things. So if I can reduce the complexity of managing it, maybe more people will use it.
It's not missing no more. AI is AI part of that. AI is a part of everything. Is it, I feel like if I went on Jeopardy and just answered every question with what is AI, I'd win. But clearly it'll help. Can you do it without AI? Yeah. Will AI make it easier? Perhaps. Yeah. Anyway, good luck. Congratulations to the people at Split. Congratulations to all of our friends at Harness. This again should be a beautiful friendship. Louis, right, for taking a line from Casablanca. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about what the heck is a Tech Field Day anyway. So, as I intimated earlier in the show, Mitchell and I were off on a trip to Santa Clara this week, where we were delegates at the inaugural App Dev Tech Field Day. We had a blast. We're both back in our respective home areas now, but what the heck is a Tech Field Day? Mitch, why don't you go first?
It's an interesting concept. I think you and I both kind of went, why didn't we think of that? It's something that Stephen Boskett set up as part of the App Dev, part of the Tech Field Day team, which is part of Future M Group. Essentially what it is let's bring a group of diverse kind of experts in their respective areas and have a technology company present to them for about an hour and a half, walking through what they do, what the product is, the problems that they solve. But it's all live streamed. So it's kind of like a giant briefing with, hopefully people that will ask some pretty smart questions. Sometimes I'm not sure the questions I always ask are that smart, but we all try. And it's really about eliciting of what does this product do and how are we using it and what are you seeing in market? And then there's some kind of alone time, downtime where we're not on camera, where we can talk about some things more openly that, they might share with us that they're not going to say on a streaming video. So it's a chance for us to get a deeper look at some of this and hear from kind of others in our peer groups, et cetera. But it's also a time to kind of really dialogue with the technology company. And we did 3 companies while we were out there. I'll let you talk about it, who they were, and we can get into a little bit of that. But I think, is that a pretty fair description, Alan?
Absolutely. Let me add a little color commentary there. So Stephen Foskett is the founder of the Tech Field Day program. He's been doing it about 15 years. So he's been doing this a while. A lot of them are done out in Santa Clara, Silicon Valley, but he does them also around existing, piggybacking like an existing show and stuff. And he does them on a variety of different subjects within tech, right? This was the first app dev one, but he's done them on many. The premise is that each company, as Mitch said, gets this 90-minute window. What they do with it, I mean, they could perform circus tricks. It's up to them. And then the delegates sit around and they listen, they question, they comment, and anything is fair game. And there is an off-camera element where you get to speak, sort of off-camera, off the record, if you will, with the vendor. I think what makes it really nice, though, is number one, most of the vendors are the three that we saw. Well, Google Cloud was one of them, and they didn't have their CEO there. But the other two vendors were Mesmo and Catchpoint, and they both were represented by their CEO. So you had a chance to really talk to their CEO and hear him talk about his vision. In this case, they were both hims. Talk about their vision for the company. I asked Steven, and full disclosure, right? Tech Field Day was acquired by Futurum. I think it closed in April. So, and we've signed an LOI with Futurum, and so, we're almost hopefully going to be sister companies or sister units within Futurum, and we're going to work a lot more with Steven and the Tech Field Day team. We actually streamed it on the Techstrong TV platform, and we will be streaming all future Tech Field Days on Techstrong TV platform. We'll also be doing the Tech Field Day podcast on our Techstrong TV platform, as well as a lot of the content stuff that they did over there, because the parent company for Tech Field Day was Gestalt IT, and you'll be seeing a lot. We'll be working closely with them, and more details to come on that.
So far I got reality TV show for IT, and can I get voted off this island, or how does that work?
You can get voted off the island, but and to be fair, look, those vendors are paying money, so. I don't know if you want to vote them off if they're writing checks, but anyway, but you could certainly tell them, I think your messaging is off. I think your product's not good. I mean, you can tell them whatever you want. The way Steven explains it is he figured out almost like how to do an event, a conference event without having a conference expo floor, without a lot of the nonsense. But, you get these companies presenting from high-level folks to what you hope is an intelligent delegate representation, asking the questions that the people out in the world want to know. It's streamed live, and then it's available on YouTube or Techstrong TV in this case. And he's been doing it 15 years. People like it.
Yeah, and the important thing is anybody can watch this. I mean, the delegates are there, but everybody can see what's going on.
It. Anybody can watch it. You don't even have to register. They don't know your name. You could be a dog on the internet and watch it.
Yeah. Tracy, sounds attractive. What do you think?
I really have been waiting for a disruption in the trade show space. I am really tired of expo floors and breakout sessions. Maybe it's just the time I've been in the industry. This format sounds far more interesting, to be quite honest. It seems more honest and more productive. I would be very interested in doing something like that.
I'll tell you, Mitch, you want to say something? Go ahead.
I think the two-way part of this is something that is underestimated. It's one thing to go to the trade floor and have the people speak at you, when you're watching the demo sitting down, or you try to go get a one-on-one and you get, maybe 5 minutes if you're lucky. The two-way part of this dialogue, you learn as much from the questions that people ask. I would have asked that question too. So I think that's a real positive. It's an evolution. You talk about disruption of the trade show. It's got some other benefits, I think.
I tell you, one of the things I really like too is besides the on time with in this case, 3 different vendors over the 2 days, the downtime with the other delegates. We went out to dinner, we had lunch together, we hung out a bunch, met some really interesting people. they're a good mix of analysts and practitioners and authors and trainers and influencers, and they had people from a sales background, a marketing background, and engineering background, and there was a real camaraderie there that you develop over the time. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to doing it. I think they're going to do another app dev one during KubeCon, Tracy. It's Salt Lake City. We're going to try to do it. And, and if you get a chance, as I said, it's on YouTube. It's on Techstrong TV. Go check it out. It was a lot of fun. I should mention, too, that of the 3 companies that presented, I wrote an article. It's on Cloud Native now, with a lot of help from our editors, on Google Cloud presented about, was it Google Cloud Run, right, Mitch?
Yeah, Google Run.
Google Run versus Google GKE. And then I also wrote an article, I think it's up on DevOps.com today, or maybe it went up yesterday already.
Yesterday.
On
it was last week by the time you see this.
Right, last week was Catchpoint. And that was good. I really, we've known the Catchpoint people. I've interviewed Mehdi, their CEO, before, but I really, truly understand where they are and where they're going. And then Mitch, you had the one on Mesmo, right?
Yes, it's going to be up, I think, on Monday, so it'll go up.
So as it's probably up there as people watch this.
I'm not sure, to Tracy's point, that this is going to replace the trade show, though, because, well, there's no attractive person scanning your badge and handing you,
Right, that's why
swag.
we go to all. No, there was swag.
Swag?
There was swag. The vendors left swag at our table for the delegates and stuff. I brought my wife home a nice, a little cup that she could fill with a beverage of choice on the boat. So it was all good. And actually, the delegates they do like a grab bag. What do they call it? A Yankee gift?
Yankee gift exchange, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. But
Now, Alan, too, if there are any companies that are interested in participating in this, we'll have the videos up first part of next week so you can get an idea of the format. But if there are any folks that are interested, would like to be one of the companies featured on this, just reach out to Alan or myself. We'll be glad to get you in touch with the right
Absolutely. Folks. And I'll tell you, 2 of Mesmo and Catchpoint CEOs reached out to me privately on LinkedIn. I saw it on my way home last night on the plane to say they had a great time. They'd like to do it again. And they wanted to talk to me about some other things anyway. But it's an intimate, great environment to learn about what these companies are really doing, and also helping them kind of sharpen it too, to sharpen their thing. And just quickly, self-serving, as we continue down the road with this Futurum Group, merger, I see a very tight integration between Stephen and the Tech Field Day stuff and what we do here, because they need the distribution, I think, that Techstrong brings to it. We could help each other a lot. There's a lot of pieces. I mean, Paul Nashawati, who's the Futurum Group analyst on DevOps, was there doing, what's it called? DevOps Dialogue, which is kind of his podcast thing on YouTube. So we had a chance to spend some quality time with Paul. There's a lot of goodness all around there. I had a great time. I mean, I highly recommend it. Check out the videos, Tech Field Day. It's good stuff.
All right, sounds good. And can we vote for delegates in the future? I mean,
well, you know what? Maybe that's something we could do. We could vote. Now, you can be a convicted felon and be a delegate. Oh, we're not going there. Sorry.
No slates of fake delegates either. You can't.
Yeah, no, I'm not going. I'm sorry, we're not going there. Actually, I do have an announcement though. Starting, I think it's June 20th, which is a Monday. Big news here at Techstrong. We're moving Techstrong TV and the Techstrong gang to 5 days a week. Now, we've always been on 5 days a week, not Saturday and Sunday, obviously. But usually 2 of those days, on Friday and Wednesday, we would do best of repeat shows. Where, there's so much going on in the tech world, and a lot of it's driven by AI, certainly. And we have so much more content with our friends from Futurum Group, like Tech Field Day and Paul Nashawati, and we've had Lisa Martin on and Steve Dickens and the infrastructure. I forget what they call that.
Infrastructure Matters podcast.
Infrastructure Matters podcast. And 6.5 Media. We have a lot more content. So our aim is to go 5 days a week, 4 hours a day. And it's ambitious. Our AV people are breaking under the strain, but you know, they'll get up to speed and they get used to it. They're long distance runners. So stay tuned for that later this month. And really, we hope you enjoy this. We'd love to hear from you about what we're doing.
Someday we might even have a live studio audience.
You know what? That would be great. Like, I would like to do the David Letterman Theater in New York City. Would be a personal thing for me, but I don't know. Or we could all go to Albuquerque.
I think you should do a wait, don't tell me style.
There you go. See,
Yeah.
future cities.
Go to Chicago and do
we
wait,
can do that.
just don't tell me. I love that show. I listen to it all the time.
Denver, Colorado.
We could be like the NFL draft, city to city. Anyway, I think that's going to end our text show. We got a little loopy there today. I tried it at 1 a.m. last night, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this Techstrong gang. We will be back tomorrow with all new, fresh content and more gang members on here. But until then, on behalf of Tracy Ragan, Mitch Ashley, Mike Vizard, and myself, Alan Schimmel, have a great day. Stay tuned for the rest of Techstrong TV today.
Bye.